We've had several vehicle pursuits over the last several weeks. So our officers have been committed to being engaged in ensuring the safety of our city. One example is just yesterday, Wednesday, December 1st, there was a carjacking at the intersection of Hickory and Hillary Street. There was a carjacking. Fifth District as well as the Second District were able to get behind this vehicle, locate this vehicle in the Fifth District. A vehicle pursuit ensued. 2 adults and 1 juvenile was arrested. 2 firearms were seized from these individuals as well. So I want to commend not just the Second and the Fifth District, but all of our districts, as well as VCATE, as well as VOWS, as well as our SRT team, who have remained engaged and remained committed to addressing these individuals with regards to armed robbery. Commend our homicide investigators with the uptick recently in homicides. They continue to press forward and following every lead that they have had to its very end to make sure that they're bringing peace to the loved ones of our victims. So the names of the adults and the juvenile that was arrested on yesterday, we will not release today just yet because we do have some ongoing investigations that may include these individuals. What I will say is throughout the month of November, we are confident that we had as many as 3 or 4 loosely knit groups that were committing these this rash of carjackings, and we have reasons to believe that the arrests that we've made will make a difference. We just have to continue to investigate and continue to do our due diligence in connecting the dots with these individuals and their connections to these various armed robberies, carjackings, as well as, like, again, armed as well as unarmed carjackings. Last weekend, 5th District had a second line, and we're starting to see that we're getting back into some normalcy. We're starting to have these events that are picking up. We just mentioned that about Bayou Classic, but as well as second lines are starting to pick up again. And just last week, 5th District had a second line in which we arrested 4 individuals who were in possession of firearms as well as narcotics. These individuals are Richard Jones, 21 years of age, Qantas Charles, 29 years of age, Melvin Rivers, 27 years of age, and Alvin Ball, 37 years of age. All separate incidents, each separate incident in which these individuals were carrying concealed weapons. So as many citizens have already done, I want to commend our officers for their hard work and remaining engaged. Their actions in apprehending not just these individuals, but other individuals in during the Bayou Classic, so this past weekend. Although there were no major events reported during Bayou Classic, we did make several gun arrests and seized as many as 7 guns off the streets of New Orleans within the French Quarter area as a result of our deployment that was put in place, meaning 8th District being on fully staffed, as well as bringing resources from other districts and other bureaus to support that. So we're confident. This past weekend was just one example of how great we are with regards to managing large crowds, and we're preparing for the upcoming events such as Mardi Gras, such as Sugar Bowl, such as New Orleans Bowl, as well as the NCAA Final Four that will be coming to New Orleans real soon. But in doing that, in having these and hosting these different events, we also have to do our due diligence and have some self-responsibility, not just as a department, not just as a city, but as a community. There is a new variant that we're facing right now with regards to COVID, Omicron, and it's spreading throughout several countries. Just recently, we had one reported here in the United States. So I am pleading that everyone get your vaccinations, please. And if you can, get your booster shots. If you have already gotten your vaccinations, also get your booster shots. That would help us as a city to be a better host in hosting events in the future for New Orleans. But we have to have some self-responsibility in ensuring that we can protect ourselves in order to protect others as we try to, again, get back to some normalcy with regards to events. So in closing, I just want to reiterate our commitment as a department, as a city, to the safety of our citizens as well as our visitors alike. And just know that we cannot do it alone. We appreciate everything that you as a community do in supporting our department to ensure the safety of our city. And we will continue to stay the course of addressing violent crimes and weeding out and holding those individuals who commit these heinous acts accountable for their actions. With that being said, thank you, and Gary, I'll answer any questions that anyone may have.
So, I know we're getting towards the end of the year. Overall, I know you have a press conference usually when we get to 2022, but
Yeah.
overall, how do you feel about where things stand from a crime aspect when it comes to violent crime for the first 11 months of 2021?
Okay. For the first 11 months of 2021, again, if you look at what occurred, the first 5 months were very rough. We're still, as we are still now dealing with a pandemic, but we were dealing with it in a different way then, as in which we are doing now. The events are starting to pick up, so I'm confident, I'm happy with what we have accomplished thus far, but we know there's still much more work to be done. We're never happy to have 193 homicides in the city of New Orleans. We're never happy to have the most number of reported carjackings in 1 month to have just occurred in this last month of November. So we know that we still have some work that must be done, but we continue to flex as necessary. We continue to engage as much as possible. Just this morning, there was a carjacking in the 7th District. Around 3:45 this morning, 7th District officers were pursuing that vehicle minutes after the carjacking occurred. Unfortunately, no arrests were made, but nevertheless, that is a testament that we as a department are remaining engaged, and we will continue to do just that. And we just want to end this year on a positive note so that we can begin 2022 on that same positive note.
So looking at the circumstances of a lot of the shootings, both fatal and non-fatal, there appears to be a lot of retaliation as motive. In a few cases, you know, a retaliation for retaliation that continues on for months or years. Can you speak to that? What are your detectives finding as far as the retaliation driving shooting?
So I can't necessarily say that. I have not really seen the data that states that there is. While we do have our own opinion on this, but in these investigations, it's not opinions that matter, it's the facts. And we have not determined. I'm sorry?
You have intelligence gathering.
We have intelligence gathering, but we have not been able to firmly confirm that this shooting was the retaliation of another shooting. Now, there are some incidents that we definitely know for sure, but I can't say that each and every one has been a retaliatory shooting. But it can be frustrating at times when you know that we've done our due diligence as a department to effect an arrest, and then we wind up dealing with some of the same individuals again, and that may evolve into a retaliatory incident.
And just follow up that, one of the cases recently in which that woman was killed at Columbus Claiborne and a victim survived, that's the John Shell Alexander killing. Is there, you know, you recovered the vehicle used, put out a picture of presumably the perpetrator. Any progress or update on that case?
Well, first of all, I can't confirm the identity of any of our victims with regards to that. I don't know how that's connected to a retaliatory anything, because we have not even we have not determined this to be connected to anything else just yet. But it is an open and ongoing investigation. We did put out a still print of a person of interest that we continue to look for. We have not received any information, and as always, I ask anyone, if you have any information, especially with regards to homicide, contact our homicide division at 504-658-5300 or our partners at Crime Stoppers to ensure that we can get that information and work with it intelligently.
Chief, what is your biggest concern right now with crime? Is it the carjackings that are happening? We're seeing them almost daily. And your thoughts on that? I know you said that you believe that there have been a couple of groups that have been committing those crimes, but what is your biggest crime concern right now? So
over the last several weeks, it has been carjackings, because I think we have been doing a phenomenal job with regards to carjackings compared to what we looked at in the past. Over this last month, it definitely increased. There was an uptick, but we've made several arrests, 16 arrests, one warrant obtained for an individual just yesterday. There was a carjacking, and within hours, we arrested 2 adults and a juvenile. So I know that the men and women in the New Orleans Police Department are doing their due diligence. I know that under the leadership of Chief Thomas and the captains over our various districts, they are placing their officers and their investigators in the right areas at the right time to not, maybe we can't deter, but we're definitely catching them shortly after that occurrence. So again, 3 or 4 different groups going back to early in the month of November. Costco's, they had a couple of incidents at Costco in which we arrested a couple of juveniles responsible for that. Then we identified another group, and it seemed as though this past weekend there was another group that's picked up. And what I will say is, what we noticed in the arrests that we have made throughout the month of November, of our juveniles specifically, many of them are still locked up. So we know these are new individuals, or these are different groups, but we still are trying to determine if they are connected in one way or another also, though.
Follow-up question, you mentioned about the last group that was captured, it was some adults and a juvenile. Are you
Yes.
finding more, instead of groups of juveniles, are you finding more adults and juveniles operating together?
Yeah, absolutely. You're starting to see a mixture of that. And I mean, when we say adults, I mean, just 18, 19-year-old, 20, 21 at most, are associated with our 15 and 16-year-old offenders. But not just with regards to offending. You know, if you know, last week I mentioned we had 7 homicides, 6 incidents. One particular incident, you had 2 juveniles that were victims. So there is some concern with regards to our juveniles and how they are behaving, how they are responding to disagreements and confrontations. So we would definitely trying to look into that and see if there's something that we can do differently to address that.
Couple more?
I heard about stuff earlier. It's a week and a half ago, some juveniles broke out of Bridge City Center for Youth. Some are from New Orleans. They don't get notified about that, and could the state do a better job of notifying you so you could pass it on to possibly the victims? Because I think 2 of these juveniles were in for violent offenses. I know you don't have anything to do with that facility, but could the state do a better job of notifying law enforcement and even victims, in your opinion? Because these kids are in there for them.
Well, we are notified when these kids escape. When there's an escape, our department, our intelligence is immediately notified immediately. So then we start working from our end, knowing the background of the individual, or the offender, or the arrested subject, knowing their background. We begin to do our due diligence in trying to locate them. So we have a very great working relationship with the state with regards to being notified, and then there's some things that we start putting into place to try to locate these individuals once they've escaped.
All right, last question.
And I have an additional question.
Mhm.
So far, 2021, there's been a net loss of officers,
Mm-hmm.
more departures than hires. And what is the maybe tactic or strategy to address that shortfall, remain effective in answering calls for service and fighting crime?
So, I mean, I think, and I have to reiterate this, this isn't anything that is unique to New Orleans. This is something that is happening across the country, across this profession. So we have to think at how we can do policing differently. You know, we just had a report with our command staff yesterday looking at alternative police reporting, reminding, we're going to do an initiative to remind our citizens that some things can be reported online, some things can be done differently, as well as looking at some things that we can do differently with regards to deputizing some of our city departments to address quality of life issues so that we can remain focused on violent crimes, which is our top priority. The next is just looking at our recruitment strategies. What can we do differently? There's a very small pool out there now that we all are pulling at. Law enforcement agencies, military, public safety agencies across the country are pulling from the very same pool. So we have to be creative in how we are recruiting.